We are back and we've got a fantastic show for all of you today. And this is a great podcast, actually, because Julie and I originally wrote this content where, when I think structuring some coaching calls for clients we had that were indeed sabotaging their success. And so today's show is called 11 Signs You're Sabotaging Your Real Estate Success. I'm going to start out by telling you guys a little story, and this will sort of, I think, set the stage for Julie's great points. And Julie, welcome to today's show.
Thank you. It's always good to be here with you.
So thank you, you too. And so what we're going to be doing is I'm going to just describe a scenario. So let's just say you're in an earthquake area of I'm just jumping into this weird, earthquakes, but just bear with me here. So you're living in a part, let's say you're living in Southern California. And let's say in Southern California, you've lived there your entire life, and there's help me out with the scientific definitions and names of all this, Julie.
Hmm.
There's seismologists whose job is to basically know when there's going to be earthquakes happening. And so what these scientists do is they place these little meters. I'm not really sure what the names of all these devices are, but they place them all around the fault line. Julie, what's the fault in Southern California called?
Oh
Amp,
gosh, I
uh,
can't remember. San
oh,
Andreas, maybe.
San
Is
Andreas.
that
Yeah, you
right?
are right. Yeah, that's it. I think there's two actually, and I think there's another one up by San Francisco. But
Probably.
anyway, these are big nasty things in the earth that could cause the earth, every time one moves this way or this way or this way or this way, right? So the fact is that they can watch and monitor the tiniest little movements in the earth, and from those tiny little movements, from the frequency of the movements and from the intensity of those movements, they can then predict what size of an earthquake's about to happen. Now, is it foolproof? No. I mean, occasionally things happen all of a sudden, but for the most part, the Earth's going to give you little tiny warning signs when there's some big, horrible event that might be looming around the corner. So does life give you those same warning signs? And that's what today's show is all about. You're now going to be put in a position of being your own seismologist, where you're going to be monitoring your tiny little undulations in your behavior and your emotions and your moods and your actions being the most important one. And by knowing what those are, knowing what your early warning signs are, you then can prevent yourself from having the big one, the big crash or whatever it is. And I want to start out by saying this as well. I need you guys to really unplug from mainstream media, and really unplug from anybody that's bantering on about the recession or a recession or any kind of shit like that. Because what's happening right now is there is a huge political tug of war that's happening in our country, and the essentially mainstream media. And I know this is political, but it is what it is. And Julie and I are not taking sides. We live in Puerto Rico. We can't vote for the president. Okay, so we vote for our governor in Puerto Rico. We don't vote for the president. So we are literally not, we have no dogs in any fights, and we don't believe in dog fighting either, just for the record.
That too.
Yeah. But the moral of the story is that what's happening now, and a lot of the headlines that are grabbing a lot of people's attention and causing their emotional states to go into fear mode, are 100% political, and you're being manipulated. There it is. Because, hey, guess what? Did you know that the amount of people getting employed, new jobs formed last month or last quarter was over 200,000? Do you realize that interest rates and mortgages are dropping? Do you realize the 10-year yield is dropping? Do you realize that interest rates and consumer loans are dropping? So we have, let's see, more people getting jobs, money becoming cheaper. Oh, I got some more good news for all of you guys. Did you realize that real estate inventory is increasing? Number of homes for sale? So yeah, there might be some economic slowdowns in certain sectors of the economy. I'm going to guess in Washington, D.C., there's going to be, in other areas where there's a lot of federal workers, there's probably going to be a bit of a recession there. But for the most part, especially in real estate, you guys are absolutely in the right place at the right time and positioned to make the most of what Julie and I are 100% confident is going to be looked back upon as being the greatest housing boom in the history of humanity up to that point. It's starting now. It's going to last about 25 years. We've done a lot of podcasts on that. We're calling we think that Trump is going to come out with a housing plan, we think, in the next 30 to 60 days, by the way. And we think it's going to be called Make Housing Great Again. But anyway, I'm bouncing all over the place. The moral of the story is for you to participate in this new housing market that's here, you got to be getting your head screwed on straight. And the worst thing you can be doing is tuning too much into the negative news. So if you are ingesting, consuming, listening to, participating in, or even passing along any negative news that might be politically motivated, and maybe you didn't realize it was politically motivated, you just need to stop, because it's doing nothing for the people you're passing the information along to, nothing positive for them, and it's doing nothing positive for you. Because if you believe that tomorrow is not going to be better than today, you end up taking actions or frankly, you don't take actions today that would have made it so that tomorrow is better. So if you believe that tomorrow is going to be a zombie apocalypse, you're probably going to go to Krispy Kreme's. You're going to go through the drive-through 2 or 3 times. You're probably not going to concern yourself too much with what is going on with regards to your business or cash flow or anything like that, right? Does that make sense? So definitely be observant of how you're behaving and how those outside influences on you are adversely affecting your outcome because you are in control of it. And yes, even if there is a housing or I'm sorry, an economic slowdown, recessions do not affect everyone equally. And you very well could be positioned perfectly to have the best, 10 or 15 years of your life, despite the fact that maybe there is a recession that lasts a quarter. Who cares? It doesn't matter because you are in the right place at the right time. And if you look at past recessions, guys, nationally, there was no real slowdown in home sales. So again, don't get politicized. All right, Julie, I'm climbing off my soapbox. I put the ladder up against the soapbox.
That's okay. You were teeing it up because what you're talking about gets down to what you say to yourself. Words matter, right? Today we're going to talk about how to know if you are going down, circling the toilet bowl, however you want to say that with your thoughts. It's what you say to yourself, and it's also what you say to your prospects, your clients, your friends, your center of influence, people you run into when you're out and about, people you see at an open house. So we're going to talk about scarcity mindset versus an abundance mindset. As you were just talking about a recession, we have to remember that houses sell during a recession too. And in fact, as from an agent standpoint, you actually have more motivated people during a recession, people who actually have to sell. You have relocation, you have new jobs, you have downsizing, right sizing, you have baby boomers deciding that they're just going to retire and sell their house and buy something in Florida. Things happen, transactions don't just end. So if you find yourself maybe in DC, I've got coaching clients in Washington, DC. Some of our elite clients are in the DC area. There's always reasons that homes sell. And it doesn't have to be tied to an interest rate or the stock market or what you're hearing on the news. So a lot of what we're going to talk about today is what you're saying to yourself. And to your point, Tim, sometimes what you start repeating in your mind is just a reel that you heard on some kind of news show or
Well, it
whatever you want to call it.
reinforces, right? It reinforces.
Yes.
So, like you mentioned, an open house. So, if you're in an open house and someone was just listening to some mainstream media report on, that's politicized about how the world's going to come to an end. Oh, it must be because of Donald Trump, for example. Then you're going to that person walks into your open house and they're probably not. I mean, people don't buy anything when they're not feeling optimistic. That's really the bottom line, other than the absolute bare necessities. And again, real estate is an absolute bare necessity for a lot of people. So go you. But you got to, be keeping all these things in mind that if you are not the person that's going to be able to have a positive mindset and realize that a lot of the emotional burdens that people are carrying around really are not their own. It's been assigned to them, or they've, so like they walk into your open house and they say, I just listened to something and it was talking about this or the other thing, bad news, bad news. And then you then Google it. And then the next thing you know, Google knows you Googled it. So then all of a sudden Facebook knows that you researched it. And all of a sudden your social algorithms are just doing nothing but reinforcing all these same things. I mean, I'll tell you, I'll tell you something funny. Julie and I made the mistake, and I caution you not to do this, on Netflix of watching something about World War II, specifically about Hitler. And it was something just, it caught our eye to some new historical thing that was somewhat fascinating. It was about artifacts it was the Holy Grail. I don't remember what it was. But I'll tell you what, and Netflix's algorithm is thinking that Julie and I are like, World War II fans. And so we've got more World War II options than I even knew existed.
Nonstop.
Nonstop. Yeah. But the other thing that's strange is that I'm seeing on social media now, on Instagram in particular, I'm being shown things that I never would have, because you see how this stuff seems to be very interconnected. That's how our minds work too. And that's how when you're the people you're surrounded with, we all get caught in these little echo chambers. We call them, we call it the algorithm, but you're the creator of your own algorithm, which is an interesting thought, right? So as we go through these points and we ask you to consider whether or not you're creating abundance in your life and scarcity in your life, you can choose either, no matter what's going on in the economy, no matter what's going on with interest rates, no matter what's going on in politics, no matter what's going on anywhere, but you have to choose to have that mindset and then reinforce it with your actions. And you'll attract other people to you that have similar mindsets. And guess what? You'll end up basically selling selling homes and making money, helping people when others aren't, because you adopted this abundance mindset. Jules?
That's right. Both are contagious. So you have to
Yeah.
decide which one you're going to embrace, right? So let me tee this up a little bit and then we can go as fast or slow through this as you want. I think we should tell them where to get the notes because there's quite a few notes.
Oh yeah, there are. You have long form notes, and this is great content too, Julie. Good job. Yeah, wow, you did a really great job on this. So if you want Julie's notes, which you absolutely do, because this is great stuff, obviously for yourself, or if you want to share it on social media, or if you're doing any coaching or training yourself, maybe your team or your brokerage, go to harrisrealestatedaily.com and get all these notes. Harris Real Estate Daily is our free daily newsletter. It's the only place you can get all of our long form notes for all of our podcasts. It's great content. We make it expressly for all of our loyal podcast listeners. And also, I want to let all of you know, those of you who have subscribed to the newsletter, you are going to be receiving an invitation. Hurrah for this in the next probably week or so. That's inviting you to the Ethical Real Estate Professional Premier Coaching webinar, our mastermind that we're doing. Some of you have already attended. We did a soft launch last week. Well, we're going to open up the doors to the whole program over the next 2 weeks. This is what we've been working on. Jules and I have been working on for the last 7 months. We're very excited about it. A little exhausted from having gotten through it. But yes, so look for the invitation. The only way you're going to receive that invitation is if you are a subscriber to our newsletter, which is harrisrealestatedaily.com. So Julie, let's get started.
All right, so let me tee this up a little bit because some of these guys aren't yet exposed to scarcity versus abundance. But you know, a lot of people are firmly entrenched in that scarcity mentality. They perceive life as a limited resource, akin to a single pie to be divided amongst everyone. So consequently, if one person claims a large slice of the pie, it's believed to leave less for everyone else. But this mindset operates on a zero-sum paradigm where one's success is viewed as directly detracting from the opportunities available to everybody else. Individuals with scarcity mentality struggle to share recognition, credit, power, or profit, even with those who contribute to those achievements. Moreover, they find it challenging to celebrate the success of others genuinely. If you have a scarcity mindset, for example, you believe that money and friends and success and promotion are all scarce. You believe that there's simply not enough of these things to go around for everybody to have a chance. And this mindset affects your thoughts, actions, and outlook, as Tim was just talking about. It is in your mind, and you can start repeating those things to yourself. But it also affects your perception and your outlook to everybody else. The scarcity mindset keeps you from saving. You find it challenging to save time and money because both are scarce. If you have either, you tend to spend it immediately before something happens to it, consciously or subconsciously, right? So there's at least 11 ways, and we don't have to go through all of them today, Tim, and I'm sure that we'll probably have half points in between as we think of things. But there's at least 11 ways to know if you're scarcity minded in your real estate practice so that you can catch yourself in those thoughts. And then we're going to talk after that about how to replace those negative thoughts, those scarcity thoughts. So if you answer yes to even half of these, you probably have a mindset challenge that's got to be corrected before you can reach your next level. So we're going to do this quickly because nobody wants to dwell here, right? I don't even hardly want to read them because you and I work very hard with ourselves and our family and our clients to stay out of that mentality that doesn't work, right? So
Well,
after the test, we'll get to the mindset of abundance. Go ahead.
so again, the interesting thing, God gave us this innate barometer inside of all of us, or maybe it's even a thermometer. I don't know, Julie, help me out with theometers here, but it's called, some people call it your intuition. But it's how you feel, right? So if you notice yourself feeling fear, feeling anxiety when you're around certain people or reading certain things or just all those types of things, if you just monitor your emotional state, how you fear, like how you feel. I feel it sort of, when I'm around somebody, for example, and I start feeling or not making myself, I start feeling, just even saying it, I'm stuttering, right? But I did it again. When I start feeling a little anxiety, that's kind of center mass of my body, then I'm being triggered by something. So something emotionally is being set off. And I'm observant of that behavior. So I'm observing that around this person, I'm feeling anxious. So am I feeling anxious because maybe my ego is being triggered? Am I feeling anxious because maybe my intuition is telling me something I should be paying attention to? Or maybe it's none of those things. It's just an errant emotion. But the moral of the story is that as we go through these points, if you find yourself struggling or even, I think, I don't know, even being mad that we even brought this point up, then it's probably, the old saying is wherever you struggle the most is where your growth needs to be. And that's something to keep in mind as you're going through this and monitor how you feel. Monitor how you feel, just scaling this back to our original point. Monitor how you feel around certain people when you're consuming certain types of news. What happens is the bad news triggers a physiological reaction in our brains, and we get used to, and you guys know this is true, it's like a little caffeine hit. And listen, I'm not against a little caffeine hit, see? but what happens is we get addicted to it. And then what happens is that the addiction requires more and more and more. So more drama, more drama, more drama. And then you end up doing doom scrolling. You go from doom scrolling to, all your friends and all your entire environment. Remember, we were talking earlier about the early warning signs of a big earthquake. So as we go through these points, and we will go through them quick, and you can get the notes from Harris Real Estate Daily, do monitor how you're feeling as we go through these things. All right. So 11 things to consider. Julie, I'll do the first two, okay?
Okay, sure.
11 things to consider: the scarcity mindset. So ask yourself, this is the hard one. We're doing it first. You have no savings ever. If you do, it's maybe for a couple weeks, sometimes as scarce as a couple hours. And I've had that conversation, Julie has as well, with lots of coaching clients, even ones that earn a lot of money. If their first go-to thought is, where can I spend this money? That's somebody who probably won't, well, obviously they're not going to have real money in their lives for very long, because their first mindset is to go to spend it, and spend it usually on things that are not going to give them any sort of meaningful return on investment. And in speaking strictly from a real estate, perspective, agents, brokers, marketing and branding, okay, ads, things like that. Things to make you feel famous, things to basically make you perceive that you're getting recognition. That's a surefire sign that you're living in a scarcity mentality. Whereas if you run your business like Julie and I, in your life, frankly, like we hope you do from our coaching and training and premier coaching, what we want you to do is run a very, very high profit margin business. You earn $10,000, you're keeping eight of it. And then from that, we want you to invest that money in a meaningful way into things that will compound, so that one day your money's working for you. You no longer have to work for your money. That means sacrificing, not being able to go spend money on, the things you may have been spending money on. It means changing your approach to money. Now I'm going to give you a little side point here. Don't try to overly analyze or worry about why you have a strange relationship with money. Julie and I have always had that, and we never have tried to overcome it. But I'll tell you what we did, because we didn't trust ourselves, is we originally started to force ourselves to save money. So we would set aside 10%, and we increased it from there of every commission check we made. But the other thing we've done is we will put assets, we'll create assets, rental properties, and we'll put them in such, a rental property is a great asset because it's not liquid. You can't get at the money, but it also forces us to save. And we do other things like that as well. To this day, we do it that way because we don't inherently trust our ability to make the wisest of decisions, because who knows why, who cares? Like I said, I'm not trying to understand why we think or feel the way about money that we do, but we put systems in place to make it so that our lesser selves, when it comes to our lower IQ money selves, are not going to spoil the potential of our futures. Maybe you do the same thing. Point number two: you believe there's only so much money to go around, and you often get in conflict over commissions, both you and your clients and other agents. You're a huge fan of procuring a cause agreement. One of the biggest, most powerful statements you can ever say to yourself is this one: next. Really, truly, next. And like worrying so much, Julie used the example on her point of basically commissions, but the reality of it is that pertains to everything. Now, here's where this advice or this suggestion can go wrong. When everything is competitive and you have to win. There's only one agent that's going to get the listing, and only one agent that's going to work with the buyer that's going to buy the house. So we're not saying don't have a mindset of competition and winning and have a high skill set. But what we're saying is there's so many people out there, especially what we're knowing is going to happen in the housing market, with the increase because of demographics and housing demand. There's going to be an overabundance of people that want to buy or sell real estate. And there's certainly not going to be any scarcity of people that you can transact with. That's what we're talking about. But it doesn't mean that you can flippantly just lose opportunities because, oh, I lost that listing, I'll just go on to the next one. Oh, that one wasn't meant to be, I'll just find another one. No, we want you to win. We want you to dominate, and we want you to leave nothing to chance. But we also want you to realize that just because you're winning doesn't mean other people can't as well at the same level. And that's what makes life more interesting. Julie, point number three.
Yes. And three, I'm actually going to update and edit. So I'm going to go to number four. You lose listings over, this is related to the commission thing again and dealing with money. Sometimes you lose listings over sticking to your guns on commission. You'd rather be right or righteous then give a little to make a deal happen. And that stems from believing that there's only so much to go around and you'd rather stick to that and it's all yours and we can't be flexible and we can't negotiate. So that's an indication of a scarcity mindset.
Why'd you skip three? I think three is a good point.
Because I just need to update a date. Did you read that?
Oh yeah, that doesn't matter though. Let's go
Okay.
back to point three, Julie, and
Okay.
because it's similar to what you just said. Don't use buyer agency agreements because you're afraid of losing commission to an agent who doesn't use buyer agent agreements. We'll just stop there. And so what that basically means is that you're meeting with a buyer and you're not asking them to commit to work exclusively with you because you're afraid if you do, you're going to then have to prove your value and you're going to have to prove to them why you're worth them paying a commission to and why you're worth them just obligating themselves exclusively to you. So your mindset is there's not a lot of potentially great buyers out there. So what do you end up working with? The non-great buyers, the non-motivated buyers, the ones that frankly will never transact and you'll, lose all your time and you'll end up commissionless at the end of the day. You'll be one of the 71% of all agents that never sell a house. So if you want to know the agents that have the abundance mindset, they're the ones that are insisting on the exclusive buyer agency contracts. They're the ones that are taking the time to pre-qualify all their buyers at a higher level. And that obviously pertains to sellers as well. So I think that's
Yeah.
probably, yeah.
That's true. And it goes back to believing that there are enough buyers to work with and that by sticking to your guns and having skill and showing your value that, if somebody doesn't want to sign and they don't value that, you can just say next. That's okay because you believe. Sometimes it gets down to believing in your own ability that you can go find more buyer leads. Do you know how to do that? Because if you think that there's only so many to go around, there's only like 3 active buyer leads in my whole zip code here. I've got to, maybe I'm just going to not ask them to sign or I'm going to go right to a flat fee. All of those things are symptomatic of scarcity.
Yeah, well, it's
So
because if I don't get this buyer, there won't be another one. And so I have to basically work for free to get this buyer or this listing,
exactly.
right? But Julie, that does go back to a lack of skill and
Mhm.
confidence. Knowledge equals
Sure.
confidence, ignorance equals fear. So if you know you can generate more leads, you're probably not going to be worried too much about losing a lesser motivated
But
one.
that's abundance, isn't it?
It is. And that's true. And because, you're talking, sweetie, I was thinking, so this year there's going to be close to 5 million transactions with new construction, like 5 million, home sales. But that means, and the average is going to be 400,000 probably, if not more. Um, that means that there's $400,000 and hypothetically there's going to be, let's just say $20,000 per transaction. And there's not 5 million transactions. There's actually 10 million real estate sides that are all going to be paying at an average of $10,000 per side. That seems to me that we are streaming, we are literally in the river
Swimming in
of
dollars.
abundance, swimming
Yeah.
in dollars, right?
There's lots and lots of zeros there. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't even do it in my head. Can you?
No, I'd have
We
to
fire
check
up,
my
fire
math.
up Grok. Well, and think about it. And Jules and I have done lots of research. We've done past podcasts on this. If you go back and research the number of transactions that are expected to happen because of this massive influx of housing demand from all the usual reasons that are triggered by demographics, you will be shocked. I mean, we're predicting within, I think it was 10 years, Julie, there's going to be something like 10 million transactions per year.
Yep.
No, 10 million sales. That's 20
Sales.
million sides.
Hmm.
And
And
the funny
something
thing,
like, I don't know, we're supposed to get to around 5 million licensed agents too.
yeah,
Something like that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, but this all goes to how you and I think, right? And we didn't just adopt this way of thinking early, like last year. We've been thinking this way for literally decades, and it hasn't has the like there's a lot of debate right now whether the country's going into recession, and I'm going to go with who cares, because you're just not being empathetic to all the people that might be affected by it. Well, I am and I'm not. I mean, if you lose your job, chances are you're going to find a better one. Why do I say that? Because generally speaking, if you go back hundreds of years, on the ascent of man, remember that book, Julie? What was that book
Hmm.
called in high school?
The ascent of man. Yeah.
Yeah, the ascent of man. Remember who wrote that?
Ugh, you do this to me on every podcast. Don't
I
put me on the
try.
spot.
I try.
It'll
Usually
hit
you
me in
can.
a minute.
I always look for things that she should remember that she doesn't. I
Oh,
don't,
you got
I don't
me.
remember it either. All right, yes, but the ascent of man. Anyway, so yes, in the ascent of man, uh, things have gotten not consistently better, but pretty much consistently better. I mean, like for example, you look at the stock market, there has been some times in the 30s where it may have been flat for like, 8 or 10 years. But if you look at, from the 30s all the way to today, the stock market's done amazingly well. So we're going to have some crappy maybe quarters in the stock market. That doesn't mean bail in the stock market because historically it's going to continue to increase. The lifestyle, people talk about, it's pathetic, but people talk about how the quality of life for people living in America hasn't gotten consistently better. Okay, yours truly is 55, and I can assure you that I remember very clearly what it was like growing up in the 70s and the 80s. And nothing was better back then. Nothing. The quality of life, the quality of air. You guys remember, if you're Generation X like Julie and I are, do you remember the smog that was everywhere from
Mhm.
diesels? It was disgusting. Do you remember? I mean, all the things that there's literally health care, dental care. Um,
You couldn't even call your boyfriend without your parents listening on the other line because you didn't have cell phones.
yeah, and we know because we
You
dated
know,
in high school.
exactly.
Yeah, but the point is everything gets better, and there's really no historical precedence behind having a scarcity mindset. There's every reason to believe that things will continue to get better, and if you have that approach to life, that opens up your mind to, hey, you know what? It doesn't matter how old I am. I can get in better shape. I can have better relationships. I can have better relationships with my friends and my family. I can have better relationships with God. I don't have to stop dreaming. Or if you're younger, you can say the same thing. You guys get it? So it's all between your ears. And one of the most important things at all times, but especially now, is to tune out all the people that are all the pernicious information that's trying to obscure the fact that we are blessed people living in a blessed time. Jules?
Yes, very well said. And again, check what's going on between your ears. One of the things that drives me crazy as a coach is number 5, scarcity mindset. Are you immune to goal setting and feel that you're above it? Goal setting just isn't for you. You and I have done events where agents will kind of like wear that as a badge of honor. Oh, I'm just not a goal setter. Why do you do that? Is that because you believe you can't have something because you can't move forward with your goals and your dreams because somebody else did and there's not enough to go around? Why do you do that? Because you don't want the accountability of that? It doesn't really matter why. If you keep telling yourself that, you're not going to be moving your own needle. Would you agree with that, Tim?
I was just thinking about the word complacency as you were reading point number 5. And the fact is complacency goes against our divine nature. So Julie and I, everybody, there's been times in our marriage in the past 30 years where we've gotten to the point where with a couple pivots, we could have probably largely retired. And I remember our original goal when we got into real estate was to basically have the ability to retire from paid off rental properties, by the way, by the time I was 40 and Julie was 39. And we did it, but it took a year later. I was 41, she was 40. And we did. We took like, I don't know, 3 or 4 months. We tried to kind of scale down. And then we didn't, yes, we were working less. But the other thing that started to happen that was really surprising is we started to lose touch with all the things that the feelings we used to have, not for each other necessarily, because we spent a lot more time together, but all the things we used to have about how it made us feel to be in contribution to other people, our interactions with other people. Like it was when we had our coaching business, and in our coaching business was always requiring that we get constantly better. Otherwise, that's the nice thing about being a coach is that if you're not getting better, your clients are going to stop paying you. So to get better, you don't just get better as in I got my scripts nailed. You have to be getting better in all aspects of your life if you're a really good coach, because the best, truest performers that are looking to hire coaches are looking for coaches that are going to be themselves on a quest to improve themselves. And so when we sort of retired when we were 40, we didn't really realize that that was going to cost us in all kinds of different ways. And the biggest one being mental, emotional, and spiritual development was going to plateau as well. So what we learned from that is you can never truly be complacent. And that's a fake word when it comes to behavior. So if you think you're going to get to the point where you have enough money where you're going to be able to, have just do nothing. You will probably get to that point, but you won't want to just do nothing because it goes against your nature. And the nature of somebody that was able to get to the point where they had the option of doing nothing is not going to be somebody who will ever actually truly want to do nothing.
That's the
So,
irony, isn't it?
yeah,
That's true. We know a lot of people that are like that.
we do, but it scales down too. So maybe you're just not a high performance person, and maybe you don't want to climb Mount Everest. And there's no freaking way I'm climbing Mount Everest.
No.
But so maybe you're like Julie now. You're kind of Midland performers. You will still look for ways to be complacent. You might decide, well, you know what, I'm in good enough shape, or well, you know what, I've got this all squared away and this squared away. As soon as you stop trying to improve that specific aspect of your life, you start losing it. Isn't that fascinating? So as soon as you decide that you've got it made in the business category, the lead generation category, my real estate skills are good enough, that it does not, especially in real estate, it doesn't take long for the market and the world to just blaze past you and leave you in the dust. And the next thing you know, you used to be number one in your market, and now you're like three or four. You know, that's what happens. So I want you to keep that in mind. And Julie, that point five was really, I think, a little advanced player mode. If you're always setting goals, big goals and small goals, and a goal is a dream with an action plan, and the reason that people set goals and don't accomplish them is because there's no action plan in place. So it's one thing for you to say, I'm going to save, $100,000. It's another thing for you to say, I'm going to set aside 20% of every paycheck, and every paycheck is going to be automatically transferred into a Charles Schwab account. The Charles Schwab account is going to automatically be invested in the S&P 500, and the S&P 500 ticker symbol that I'm going to be buying is VOO or VII. I just gave you a plan. And I'm going to, based on my commission and my closings this year, I'll be able to have at least $100,000 saved. You put it in retirement accounts and things like that. So money goals are almost always the easiest to accomplish because you could just churn them off like that. Physical goals are as well. The ones that are harder to accomplish are the familial goals or the educational ones. You have 5 areas of life that are about goal setting. Julie, do you remember what they are?
Family, financial, physical, mental or spiritual, and educational.
There you go. Good girl. And so you have the real estate treasure map, which you get in the first level of, I always forget one of them. I forget which, see, I can't remember which one I usually forget.
The
Anyway,
first three have F's or sound like F: family, financial, and physical.
see how Julie's always good at these cheat codes? So as far as when you sign up for Premier Coaching, and the first level is something called a real estate treasure map. Hey, Julie, that's something else we should be
Yep,
prioritizing as a
that's on my
standalone.
list.
Okay.
Mhm.
And the real estate treasure map is our fill in the blank business and life plan. And that's going to help you set business and life goals. And this is great for you. Julie and I dust off our treasure map twice a year just to see if we're frankly, well, I mean, we are goal seeking and setting. We can't even stop ourselves. It's
All
just
the
how we
time.
think. It's hardwired. It's almost annoying. I mean, right, Julie? I mean, if we're being
It
honest,
is.
I mean,
Well, on the other hand, be careful what you wish for, because when you write it down and you follow the treasure map, you're actually going to do it.
yeah, that's
So,
right. So
yeah.
if you want the treasure map and if you want all of the first level of Premier Coaching, just go to premiercoaching.com and join. You can join right now for free, no payment for 30 days. You have instant access to all first level. And of course, you have a daily semi-private coaching call with a Harris certified coach. Premiercoaching.com, or just click the link below in the show description if you're an iTunes Spotify, Stitcher, does not matter where, LinkedIn, Facebook, Threads, it's all there. Just click the link below or just go to premiercoaching.com. Julie, point number 6.
Okay, number 6 is a little practical and tactical in the real estate world here. If you have a scarcity mindset, you often get outbid on competitive buyer offers because you feel that the buyers don't have the money to bid high enough to win. You kind of commiserate with them having to stretch because, there's only so many dollars to go around, right? And then when you don't win, sometimes you blame the buyer, the market, the other agent, or even the seller for your deal not happening. Now, when you do get something in contract, you always make it because it's of you, your expertise, your experience, and abilities. Because again, a symptom of scarcity mindset or mentality is that it's not, you have a hard time giving other people credit because there's not enough accolades to go around, is the philosophy there. No one else is given credit or congratulations. A lot of our listeners, it's not you, but you've dealt with agents like that where they just seem a little miserable and combative all the time. And they're not, I see it when agents are negotiating on like inspection items, and they'll jump on each other and they'll say, "Oh, well, my seller will never agree to that." Because you yourself would never agree to that doesn't mean that your seller won't give and fix that problem. And they'll do the same thing with the buyer. Oh, they would never go over asking price. Well, did you ask them? Maybe they're dying to have that house and they'll go 10,000 over. Don't make your money anxieties and scarcity feelings into somebody else's.
Well, Julia, it's also how you basically, again, I think what your grander point is that if you are having a scarcity mindset and you're believing that your tomorrow is not going to be better than your today, you're probably going to attract other people that feel the same way.
Yeah.
And those people will never win in a competitive bidding situation. And what you should be doing instead is looking at the history of the appreciation of real estate. You should be looking at the fact that mortgage interest rates are going down. You should be knowing the fact that, what was it, Jules? The average homeowner has a net worth that's like what was it, 40x or some
It's 40
insane.
times what a renter has. Yeah.
I can't believe I remembered that. Yeah.
That's
So
good.
40 times of what a renter has. And
Mhm.
so if you have all that information at your fingertips, yes, Mr. Seller, or buyer, I realize that the interest rate isn't what you want. I realize that there's a lot of crappy news out there and, Orange Man bad, and I get all this shit. But the reality of it is that when you buy a home, these are the benefits that you're going to get over time. So you might have to be the one that's pushing past your scarcity mindset to help
Exactly.
them do the same. That's the point that Julie's trying to make with that
That's it.
last point. Yep, I
Yep.
got it.
Now,
All right.
I don't like all the scarcity stuff. Makes me feel icky. Do you want to skip ahead to turning the ship around to how to have an abundance mindset? Because that's the rest of our notes.
That's fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to skip points 7 through 11, and those are available to our newsletter podcast, folks. So go to harrisrealestatedaily.com. And by the way, I really wanted you guys to talk about point number 11, but I'm going to leave that out because point
Mhm.
number 11, remember when you're reading the notes, make sure you read point number 11 and read it like 10 times
I
because
agree.
it's a really critical point. All right, so let's talk about the abundance mindset. Julie, let's get for the first 3 points and then let's leave these notes for them to go to harrisrealestatedaily.com and get the notes because it's long form and
Okay.
you and I have other Zooms we have to get to.
That's right. So the abundance mentality, you understand that there's more than enough pie to go around. You operate from a place of service, knowing that when you lift others up, you're going to rise along with them. It's not just about making a buck, it's about creating abundance for yourself and those around you. You're actively pursuing best practices. You're upgrading everything from your mindset to your skill set with enthusiasm. And you understand that your income directly results from helping your clients achieve their goals so that you can achieve yours. So, action plan for abundance mindset. And you touched on some of these when you were talking about being media free and that sort of thing. But the first one is have appreciative conversations. Rather than talking about the things you don't have, try to engage in conversations with friends and family and even clients about the multitude of things you do have and what they have. Life is full of abundance. Monitor your complaintometer and have more positive than negative conversations with your prospects, your clients, and your family. This is something that you can hear right away with coaching clients is what is the ratio of negative and positive? Is always something wrong all the time? And you hardly ever hear something that they're really grateful for or what went well. You sometimes we'll even, when we start a coaching call, especially with elite clients, what's the best thing that happened to make you more money for yourself and your family since we last spoke? And sometimes, remember, the question is, what is the best thing? What do they do sometimes? They go right into the worst thing. You're not going to believe this deal came apart or
but
whatever.
but
That
as a
tells you
coach,
what's going in their mind.
exactly. But as a coach, it's okay.
It's
Sometimes,
okay.
you need to unload, and that's fine. The coach is
Mhm.
there to help you get your mind back on tracks. But Julie's point is really it's about being in a state of gratitude. It's about showing gratitude. And it is an interesting anomaly. I don't understand how this actually works, but it's, spiritual in a way. If you, for example, are feeling kind of, pessimistic, if you're feeling in a state of scarcity, it's very simple to snap yourself out of it. It's a little gift that we have all been born with. And all you got to do is think of maybe 3 things that you're really grateful for. And if you can't think of 3 things that you're really grateful for, if you find yourself fighting against it, that's how embedded your scarcity mindset is. But you need to push past it. So, for example, maybe you're grateful for this podcast. Hopefully, you are. We're grateful for all of you. Maybe you're grateful for your computer. Maybe you're grateful for the fact you have a cup of coffee sitting beside you. Maybe you're grateful for the car you have, or you're grateful for your dog or your cat or your kid or your health or your wealth or whatever the hell it is. Think of 3 things that you're grateful for. It's not just enough to say them. I'm grateful. Like sometimes we have Zoe do this. And so she'll just like rattle off 3 things. And then you can tell she's just getting through it just to make mom and dad stop asking her to say 3 things she's grateful for. So what you have to do is you have to say what it is, and then you have to commiserate with the emotion. Like, I'm really grateful for my dog Max, right? I'm really grateful for and this is I know Zoe's in the room with Julie, but I'm really grateful for my dog Max. I'm really grateful for having a, French bulldog he's warm and fuzzy. And this is Zoe. This is when we ask her to go through this exercise, and Max is always number one. And because she's really loving Max, and I think Max is in there with you too, Julie.
They're both. I think they're both asleep. Actually, if you can believe
Oh,
that. I hear Max dreaming about something.
Julie does the podcast in Zoe's room. Just so in case you guys know wonder why it's always blurry behind Julie.
Yep.
Yes. So yeah, the point is that that's a way to not just say what you're grateful for, but you put yourself in the emotional state of experiencing that feeling of gratitude. And it is amazing how when you're feeling gratitude and you're really allowing yourself to feel the sense of gratitude, love, appreciation, you cannot feel bad. The bad feeling or the pessimistic feeling might be lingering. The scarcity feeling might be, way in the background of your mind, but your dominant emotions are of optimism. They're about, it's weird. You change the frequency inside your mind just by thinking and feeling of things that you're grateful for. So having appreciative conversations and being very monitoring, very careful of never saying anything negative. Don't say anything negative. Don't type anything negative. Don't be around negative people because it opens the window just ever so slightly for more negative crap to pour in. And negative crap will seek you out with more aggression than positive will. It's extraordinary, actually. If I was telling you guys about, that Netflix thing that Julie and I watched, and we're being inundated with other stuff that we have really no interest in, but that's the way thoughts and emotions work too. That's the way people work. That's the way everything works. So you have to be an unbelievably attentive, security guard to your own mindset and not allow even the tiniest. And if something does sneak past your security guard and you all of a sudden find yourself, saying something, forgive yourself immediately and just break. Don't ask where that thought came from. Why am I
And then
thinking
you
the way
say
am I thinking?
next. Use next
Just
for
say
that too.
next. Yeah, and then what gets to the point is you start becoming observant. So the bad, emotions and thoughts will pop around in your head and you'll say, oh, there's one. Look at that little bastard. It was trying to, derail me for the rest of the day, but it's not going to work.
Mhm.
Versus getting pulled into all of it and then losing the state of appreciation. Does that make sense, Julie?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, point number two on abundance, you touched on a lot. So I'm going to go through this fairly quickly, but follow a media free morning and life as much as possible. Because almost every form of media in some way revolves around cultivating a desire for things that you don't have, scarcity. It's a key element of that scarcity mindset. Media highlights loss, fear, anxiety. Why would you voluntarily sign up for that? You don't have to do that. Instead, curate your podcast like you are now, listening to us. We do that as well. And your newsletters to serve your mindset of abundance and success. So get away from the negative social media and instead curate what you are putting into your head.
Well, that was 3 and 4, but that was 2 and 3 rather. But point two really is go media free. And
Yes.
that's really what matters most
Except for,
here.
there's a lot, like you listen to Housing Wire, we listen to
Yeah.
media is a big term, but we're talking about, the things that are not contributing to your goals in some way or your education or your skill set. So when I say curate, that's what the great thing about podcasts. We did a podcast about podcasts not so long ago, is that you can try things out. And if it's not your jam, then just delete it. Don't follow it anymore. And then you find something you really like and you're committed. Like, I really like listening to Monday and Thursday Housing Wire because there's great stats and facts and things that I can use in coaching and on this podcast. You have to choose. I think maybe we modify this point to say, don't be a passive listener with your media. Don't just turn on and listen to whatever your channel is. Go after something that's meaningful, that fills your cup instead of depletes you.
This goes back to a prior point, and you made this point that this is related to what we're talking about. If you want to know whether or not you should be inviting more of that particular podcast, let's say, into your life, you got to be asking yourself, how do I feel when I listen to it? How do I feel when I'm consuming I'm reading that or I'm listening to this or this, the other thing, or even around a different person? Because if you get that tightening in your midsection and you're finding yourself full of anxiety and fear, nothing positive comes as a result of that. Nothing positive. Your
Nope.
fight or flight's been activated. You're now in a state of fight or flight, and you're certainly not going to be doing anything that is, I think, requiring the highest form of yourself. In other words, you're not going to be improving your skill set. You're certainly not going to be being in a mindset of service to other people. You're in fight or flight mode after all. So monitor if you're listening to something right now, and a lot of you guys are addicted to these ridiculous Facebook groups and these things on just these little insidious, what's the word?
Insidious.
Insidious, thank you. Stews of what only could be labeled in some cases as evil, but you've normalized it because after all, everyone else talks and thinks like about this stuff. How does it make you feel? Just ask yourself. When you go to that particular website or listen to that particular person, how do they make you feel? Do they make you feel like there's going to be a civil war? Do they make you feel like, the world's coming to an end? Again, Orange Man bad. Do they make you feel like we're being lied to? We're being cheated? Does it make you feel like all these bad things? Or does it make you feel good? Does it make you feel optimistic? Does it make you feel excited? Does it make you feel great in a state of gratitude? So you now know the importance of controlling your own mindset. You now know the importance of controlling what you allow to positively and adversely affect your mindset. Choose which one you want to, which path you want to be on, because it compounds. If it's just like money, if you choose to only associate with positive people, positive inputs from media, if that's, you're literally only going to consume things that make you feel grateful and gratitude, empowered, that's going to compound. It'll go from minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day, week to week, month to month. And because you're building on all of that positivity, you're going to become a completely different person because you're going to rewire your brain. And then you're going to start attracting to yourself more people. They're going to say, you know what, that Bob, he's always in such a good mood. I love being around Bob. They're not going to know why they necessarily like you as much as they do Bob, but they're going to, because you radiate a certain kind of energy that they're attracted to. Unless, of course, they're just in love with feeling, pessimistic and feeling
Ugh.
in a state of scarcity. And there's people like that too. There's some people that just
Mhm.
like to go throughout their lives and just be Debbie Downer forever. Avoid those people because they will pull you down along with them. Julie?
Yes, 100%. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit in the interest of time here to number 5. I love
Okay.
this one. I think this is something that you created originally, and that's stating that it's too soon to tell. Using that phrase will serve you well. It's too soon to tell. Sometimes bad stuff happens, sometimes good stuff happens. But when the bad stuff happens, the scarcity mindset will often start to haunt you again, telling you how unfair it is and how other people are somehow luckier than you. Lose the scarcity ghost and replace it with, it's too soon to tell. The road to success is paved with a lot of failures or perceived failures. So, along with too soon to tell, use your affirmation, if it's meant to be, it's up to me, and get back to work helping people. This happens like several times a day with productive real estate agents, where like I had a call last week and the agent said, well, I thought I had a great open house. I had 20 different people come in, but I don't know if any of them are going to be good leads or not. Nobody really said anything. And I said, well, it's too soon to tell. Do the work, make the calls. Too soon to tell. It's too soon to judge whether nobody there was going to become a new prospect for you. Same thing when, you took that new listing, you think that's a killer listing. Well, that's also too soon to tell. Did you really price it right? Are you going to do the work? Are you going to sell it and do everything you promised? So use it's too soon to tell as frequently as you can, because it reinforces the accountability that if it's meant to be, it's up to me. You can change what maybe you perceive that today's going to be a rotten day. Well, it's too soon to tell. Change your mindset, change your outlook. Are you in power or is something else?
The power
Soon
of
to tell.
that, by the way, I didn't think of that, Julie. That came from, I forget, a philosopher, but I appreciate you giving me credit for such a profound thought, but it wasn't for me. But the real power of too soon to tell is that it avoids the peaks and valleys in our
Mhm.
emotional state. So if you want to fast track to burnout, it's essentially always being an emotional roller coaster. So you might have a really, really good morning. Oh my God, it was a great morning ever. I got a listing call. I got one of my houses went in contract, blah, 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 blah. And then in the afternoon, something bad happens, some bird craps on your head. Julie had an iguana
That's
take
so
the
disgusting.
biggest iguana.
Iguana dump. Ugh,
Ugh, it was
so disgusting.
unbelievable. It's like she got bombed.
Blasted.
We're from Ohio, and like Julie's walking along, she starts screaming. She's walking on my. Oh my gosh! Someone listening to us right now must think we're
So awful.
insane, but it
I
happened.
hope nobody fast forwarded and landed it at that exact spot.
Yes, but it
Yep.
happened. It was extraordinary too. But she started saying, "Oh my God!" Now I'm going to kind of make this part of the story up because it might be
Okay.
funny. Yeah, but anyway, she was covered with,
My arm, my
and
shoulder. Ugh.
what would iguana poo be called? I bet it's got a funny name.
Iguana goo. I don't know.
I don't know either. Anyway, so she was in a state of, whatever. We found a place where she could go shovel it off of her. It was great. I mean, it was incredible, but it was too soon to tell because later that day, it turns out that iguana poo, this is the part I'm making up. Iguana poo is the greatest hair moisturizer and hair mask
Moisturizer.
ever
It's
known to
great.
man. And her hair looked amazing for like a week because it was
Very
too,
organic.
very organic, exactly. Because it was too soon to tell. I mean, you guys are hopefully
That's an
laughing at that.
extreme, but I'll go with that. At the
Well, but
time, it didn't seem too soon to tell. It seemed very real at the
But
time.
if she had taken, I mean, who wouldn't have used that as an opportunity to basically say this day is obviously not for me. I'm going back to bed. I
I
mean,
could
if
have
there's
easily been like, it's obviously going to be a crappy Monday. And then
boom,
then
boom.
what happens is you have confirmation bias. Like Then you're walking, you continue to walk. We were walking to the gym, excuse me, at the time. Maybe I stubbed my toe. Maybe I tripped and skinned my knee or something. Oh, it's just going to be one of those days versus saying, you know what? It can't get worse than this, than iguana poo from the palm tree. Can't get worse than that. I'm going to make this a better day.
Yeah. Well,
Thanks for
she
bringing that
knocked it
up.
off of her and, there we all we went on with the day and she forgot about the end of the day. Actually, I hadn't
Until
remembered it
now.
until you just brought it up now. Yeah. But so the too soon to tell. So got to keep your emotions between the lines. And I'm not saying try to be a stoic where you have no emotions. That's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting is that you don't allow yourself to get addicted to the high highs because the low lows will be extra painful. When you have a success, just say, fantastic. It's too soon to tell. When you have something that feels like a failure, say it's too soon to tell. And in coaching, for example, we have had hundreds of thousands of coaching calls ourselves, not to mention our own, life sojourn. And I can remember back having coaching calls that are, 20 years ago with folks and them working through something that would have been, I mean, at the time, like if I were to describe some of these issues that people have had, just life stuff, right? But some of it's just as horrible. And you just have to kind of put it in a shoebox and say, well, that was just a bad experience, or it was just an experience. It's too soon to tell. And it never doesn't make sense why it happened. I don't know, why did your house burn down? Why did this happen? Why the other thing? It just, it is what it is. Just it's too soon to tell why you had that experience. And then 10 years or 20 years or 30 years or maybe only 6 months later, the reason why you had that experience becomes known. And it could just be because you're helping somebody else through a similar situation, or it just could be because it turned out that the house that burned down was buried on a pirate trove of gold. And it wasn't known until you went to rebuild the foundation a year later that you found a trunk full of gold that was being covered up by your 1950s concrete slab foundation. We're just trying to make extreme points, but whenever you have a good experience and you have a bad experience, if you overly bemoan it or overly suffer the fate of the bad experience or overly celebrate the good one, you absolutely will burn yourself out. So just say that to yourself. It's too soon to tell. And even by saying those words, you'll find yourself developing a certain sense of emotional serenity, which gives you a lot more staying power for the hard times. And that's for, and again, this type of energy people will be attracted to, especially, well, I was going to say in times like these, but I can't remember the last time there wasn't a time like this. It just
Right.
seems like everything's a time like this anymore, which is
A
another, I
different
think,
version of it. Yeah.
yeah, but Jules, it's just another indication that we're all just being manipulated. We're all part of some sort of, what's the theory that we're all living in some sort of big
Matrix or
video.
something.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so here nor there,
Too
you could
soon to
just,
tell.
it's too soon to tell. Exactly. We could very well be, we could,
Never know.
all be players in a big video game in the sky. You don't know. Who knows? It's too soon to
The
tell.
stars are air holes and we're all in a big snow globe or something. Never
Julie,
know.
I want to go with point number 7 and let's round the bend. And I know we
Okay.
bounced around a little bit on these, but we do that because we know that you guys will go to Harris Real Estate Daily and subscribe to the newsletter, and that's where all the points are. But point number 7 is a great one to level off because it is the destroyer of all potential. Julie?
Number 7, stop comparing yourself to others, especially on social media. In the scarcity mindset, all that matters is how you compare to others. In the abundance mindset, what matters most is how you compare to yourself, how you live out your own ideals in your day to day life. Are you on track, ahead, or behind on your goals for yourself this year, this month, and this week? This is a lot of the work that we do in coaching is keeping the train on the tracks and getting you away from who cares who got what award in your office for what? I mean, they give out attendance awards and things, right? Don't compare yourself to others. That's like 90% of social media is about that. And the other 10% is cat videos. So what are you doing, right?
Are,
So you get back to your goals. We talked about goals in 5 areas of life, things that you find in the treasure map. That should be your North Star. Who cares what the agent next to you sold or didn't sell, or what some friend from high school is doing right now that you saw on Instagram or whatever?
but
Be
choose
your
the
own
game.
North Star. Go
Choose
ahead.
the game that you choose your own game.
Yeah.
That's called your goals. And then
Mm-hmm.
you choose how you determine you're going to win. That's the accomplishment of your goals. If you don't have goals, you're going to be easily manipulated um, by social media. You're going to be easily manipulated by media in general. The neuroses and the psychoses that are ooze from those types of platforms, they're all designed to trigger your lower emotional self, which is not
Mm-hmm.
of contribution, which is of fear, which is of scarcity. It is of, all the things that are going to lead to you having your tomorrow not be as good as your tomorrow could have otherwise been had you ignored all of it. Social media is not a curse, it's a blessing, but it can be a curse depending on how you use it.
Yeah.
So when I think about social media, it's interesting that there's such this belief, it's a misbelief, it's a misunderstanding that fame makes you like what are people seeking on social media? What is it that they're trying to convince you of on social media? And why is it that you're attracted to that particular thing? Is it because you feel like you're missing it in your life? And what decisions would you not be making what decisions would you be making differently if you just purged social media from your life for like a month? If you completely unplugged from the constant reminder that you're not good enough, you're not tall enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not handsome enough, you're not rich enough, that's what social media does for a lot of people, or does to a lot of people. You're choosing for that to happen. If you unplugged from all of that, what would fill vacuum abhors nature abhors a vacuum. So the vacuum that would be created from you not filling your mind and your time with the consumption of all that crap, what would it be filled with if you just purged yourself from it, which is going back to a previous point, be media free.
Hmm.
You would find yourself being naturally in a grander state of abundance. You'd find yourself being in a state of gratitude. You go back to your natural state because your natural state is not pessimism. Your natural state is not fear. Your natural state is not all the things. Your natural state is of the person you truly want to be. You just have chosen to allow other things to abscond with your potential, with your future, with your highest and truest purpose, which is being of service to other people. So, what we're suggesting that you do is you take responsibility and start by asking yourself, how do you feel? How do you feel right now, having listened to our podcast? Do you feel optimistic? Do you feel happy? Do you feel encouraged? Do you realize that your best days are still in front of you? Do you realize it's a fantastic day? Every day you wake up and you're looking at the green side of the grass. That should be the benchmark. Are you feeling, excited now because maybe before you were thinking, oh, I'm just too old to accomplish things in my life that I, would have set out for myself, or I'm too young, or I'm too this, I'm too the other thing. Are you now realizing that those are just all self-imposed limitations that you have put on yourself, and you can now choose to not have them on yourself anymore? It's interesting, isn't it? We're all basically benefiting or suffering from the cage that we've created for ourselves, and the bars of the cage are all the decisions that we make every single day. With a bar might be starting your day with, not showing gratitude. A bar might be on your cage, might be filling your day with a whole bunch of, adversarial information about the economy, things like that. You guys get it? So purge yourself from all of it and get back in alignment with your soul, your highest and truest purpose, which is being of service to other people. Again, these notes, we didn't go over a lot of our points because we don't have time. I got to do another podcast, but do go to Harris Real Estate Daily and do subscribe. And guys, thank you for keeping this the number one listened to daily podcast for real estate agents in the United States. We had, I looked at the numbers 5 days ago, and in the world right now, in our section, this podcast is 43. The only podcasts that get more downloads that are in our section are like Dave Ramsey,
Hmm. That's
things
okay.
that are huge, and
Yeah.
that's good. So it's because of all of you
We're
that
grateful.
we're grateful. We're showing gratitude. There you go. And so,
That's the
Julie,
part.
here's your takeaway, Julie. Wear a
Yes.
hat on our walks.
No kidding. A wide brimmed one.
All
Exactly.
right, you guys have a fantastic day. Talk to you on the show tomorrow.